Okay, so now that you know why the first quadrant looks like it does, in this video we're going to work on the rest of the circle and some memory tricks to make this sort of more doable for you. It seems overwhelming at first, but what's awesome here, guys, is that this is a circle. And if you kind of take a look at the circle and you understand the concept of symmetry, you'll understand that no matter which way I fold this circle, things are going to match up. So in other words, take this pink line right down the center. In fact, let me highlight it for you. Okay, if we take this line right down the center and I were to fold my circle on that line, then everything over here in the first quadrant would match up with everything over here in the second quadrant. And so what that makes it actually really, really nice, because I think the hardest thing for people are the coordinates, but pretty much all of these coordinates are just going to be the same exact thing over here. Now the only difference is you're in quadrant 2, so think about it. If you're in quadrant 2, it's not a positive x and a positive y, it's actually a negative x, right? And then your y is still positive. So I'm just recopying everything that I see in the other quadrant, with the exception of making my x's negative. Excellent. Now, as far as degrees go, we'll do the degrees next. Whenever you're doing degrees, the thing about those is that, memory tricks are actually harder than just adding. I mean, we're going around the circle and we're adding by 30, 30, 30, or there's all the 45s that are in the middle. They're the ones that are green here. So if I just keep adding, 90 plus 30 is 120. 120 plus 30 is 150. 150 plus 30 is 180. That's actually a lot easier than trying to do a trick. And then we need 45. So I need to add 45 to 90, and that's going to give me this one right here, 135. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and finish out my degrees while we're on this subject, because I'm just adding them around. So plus 30 is 210, 240, 270, 300 and 330, and then I just need to go back in and fill in the 45s. So that's going to be a 225, and that's going to be a 315. Okay, so there's all my degrees around the circle, just adding it all around. And then let me go back to radians, and then we'll do the bottom half of the circle. So back to quadrant 2, we're up over here. Now, this is probably my favorite thing, besides the fact that you just get to straight up recopy coordinates. I want you guys to look at the same thing. If we're folding our circle across this yellow line, then these are going to match up. Like, that's why this one's red and this one's red. This one's green and this one's green, this one's blue and this one's blue. It's to show that matching, and it does mean something for your radians. What I always memorized was just the denominators always match. So pretty much when I was memorizing at your age, I memorized quadrant 1, and then I was like, okay, so if this is 6, 4, 3, then over here it's also going to be over 6 over 4 over 3, because they just match up. Now what changes is the numerator, but what's cool is that it's an easy trick. Here in quadrant 1, the numerator is just 1 pi. 1 pi, 1 pi, 1 pi, right? Well, in this quadrant, what I always remembered is that the numerator is 1 less than the denominator, okay? So numerator is 1 less than denominator when you're in quadrant 2. So 6 minus 1 is 5 pi. 4 minus 1 is 3 pi, and 3 minus 1 is 2 pi. So that's how I always did my quadrant 2. Now, to get down to quadrant 3, there's going to be another nifty trick just like this, but now we're going to imagine folding our circle a different way, right? Because we need things to match up, and we're talking about symmetry here. So now, if you would, just imagine we're going to fold the circle across the x-axis instead. And when we do that, guys, the whole top half of the circle is going to match the whole bottom half of the circle, okay? And once again, that's why these rays right here are sort of color-coded, is to show you that. So let me start with the coordinates again. Let me go back to blue. So it just means that all of these coordinates that are here and all these coordinates that are here, they're going to be a mirror image down here. So the red, the one closest to the x-axis, is going to be root 3 over 2, 1/2. Now what quadrant are we in? Well, we're in quadrant 4, which means the x is positive and the y is negative, right? So I'm just recopying this, negative y, and then this will be positive 1/2, negative root 3 over 2. And then over here, I'm going to kind of do the same thing, right? I'm going to mirror image this, except the only difference is going to be now that everybody's negative. Why is everybody negative here? Well, I'm in quadrant 3, so the x's are negative and the y's are negative. All right, and so yay, got all that done. So I memorize quadrant 1, and then I use symmetry to work my way around the circle. So I quickly know, okay, if it's up here, if I fold my circle, it's going to be that one. Or if I fold my circle down, it's going to be that one. Or if I fold my circle down here, you know, so I can work my way around. Okay, so what's left? Okay, radians. Let's talk about the radians and their symmetry. So what's cool about this is the same rule that I said here. You know, if we know that this is 6, 4, 3, then if I fold my circle, this is 6, 4, 3. Well, now if I fold my circle down, then this one would be over 6, this one would be over 4, and this one would be over 3, because I'm just symmetry, right? I'm matching them up as I fold the circle. All right, now you know how here the numerator was 1 less than the denominator? Well, now in this quadrant, the numerator is 1 more than the denominator. So 6 plus 1 is 7 pi, 4 plus 1 is 5 pi, 3 plus 1 is 4 pi. Okay, so this is what it should look like. 7 pi over 6, 5 pi over 4, and 4 pi over 3. And in this quadrant, same thing. I'm looking at my denominators. Let me just take this one. If I fold my circle over here, it's going to also be over 3, and then we've got the 4, and then we've got the 6. So you're just imagining matching these up if you were to fold the circle. And now there's also a trick, once again, by using the denominator. It's a little more interesting, but it's there, I promise, okay? So instead of just getting to add 1 or subtract 1, the rule is that you, it's denominator times 2 minus 1, okay? And that's going to equal your numerator. So numerator is denominator times 2 minus 1. So double your denominator, and that's a 6, right? And then 6 minus 1 is 5. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7 pi. And then 6 times 2 is 12, minus 1 is 11 pi. So that's how you can get your radians down here pretty darn quickly. So just using symmetry and these 3 tricks right here, you're pretty much good to go. Now the main 4 I've kind of saved till last, just because, you know, they're really important. All the main 4 though are just counting up by pi over 2. So if you start at 0, 0 plus pi over 2 is pi over 2. Pi over 2 plus pi over 2 is just pi. And then pi plus pi over 2 is 1.5 pi, or 3 pi over 2. And then you add pi over 2 again and you get 2 pi, right? So these main 4 are the most important, especially later in the year and then in calculus. So make sure that these are your priority. Don't forget about them. Do these 4 first, then come back and fill in the rest and do all your tricks. Now what about the points? You're like, oh, I don't have the points. Yeah, you do. You're on a coordinate plane. And you know that the unit circle has a radius of 1. So if that was the point 1, 0, then that's 0, 1. And if you just go to this side, well, it's still 1 away, so negative 1, 0. And now we're going 1 down, so 0, 1. Or how about negative 1? There we go. So this is what your unit circle is going to look like, and you're going to want to memorize it. And hopefully with these few tricks that I've shown you, you can memorize it a little easier. The way that you're going to memorize it, no lie, is just redrawing it over and over and over. So before you take your first quiz over the unit circle, if you keep redrawing it, like let's say 5 times, start with quadrant 1 and fill out everything in quadrant 1 because that's the memorize part. But then once you have quadrant 1, use your tricks to get the other 3 quadrants. And before long, you'll be doing this in, you'll be able to reconstruct the circle in, a minute. All right, folks, good luck, and I hope that helps.